Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Cobern, and today's episode is on the Green Bay Packers draft class. Starting with the first pick of the draft, Kevin King, cornerback out of Washington. This is a very, very good pick. Just from a production standpoint, he had 56.40 in terms of solo tackle market share, 96.65 in terms of pass deflection market share, and when you just look at him compared to other special cornerbacks over the last 20 plus years, compares favorably with all those guys. Has elite pass deflection market share. Then when we get to his athleticism, he was 82.51 in terms of explosiveness, 73.05 in terms of speed, and 98.86 when it comes to flexibility for his size. He has elite flexibility for his size. He has elite pass deflection market share. And he also has a fairly decent age with an age score of 87.31. Best case scenario for Kevin King is realistically a multiple Pro Bowl cornerback. He's essentially like Stephon Gilmore, but more productive, younger, and a little bit more athletic than Gilmore. So I think this is a great pick to start the draft for the Packers. And overall, this was a good draft, but this is just the cornerstone of that because I think this is the one guy of your class that's going to be a special player. Then we get on to the next pick, Josh Jones, defensive safety out of NC State. This is someone that I've been a big fan of when it came film-wise. All the way back in November, I was watching his film, and I was like, why is nobody talking about this guy? He's a fairly impressive guy when it comes to man coverage. He's big, all that kind of stuff. But it extends more than that. Based on his production, he was 97.04 in terms of solo tackle market share, 81.86 when it comes to interception market share, and 92.86 when it comes to pass deflection market share. All those marks are extremely impressive, but then you get to his athleticism, where he was 97.08 in terms of explosiveness, 98.87 when it comes to speed, and 54.93 in terms of flexibility for his size. Everybody's been talking about Obi Melifonwu from the Combine due to his explosiveness and speed testing, but Josh Jones was very close to Obi Melifonwu when it comes to those two measures. The only knocks on him, realistically, is that his flexibility for his size is not elite. 54.93. There hasn't been a single safety that was multiple All-Pro or multiple Pro Bowl who had a flexibility score that was this low. But you got positives here. I think overall production and his athleticism, I think this is someone who's going to be a very, very good, strong safety for you guys. So I think overall you have a good profile for him and a very good pick when it comes to day two. Then the next pick, we get to Montravius Adams, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Starting with his production, he was 70.46 in terms of solo tackle market share, 78.12 when it comes to sack market share, and 62.04 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. Production isn't amazing by any stretch of the imagination, and it isn't exactly, all pro level or any sort of level when it comes to those sort of things, but it's above average. And age-wise, he was fairly good with an age score of 91.11 when it came to his age score. So it's solid production. Athleticism is kind of where I'm thinking the Packers took him for because based on his athleticism, he was 56.27 in terms of explosiveness, 93.14 when it comes to speed, and 56.39 when it comes to flexibility for his size. All those marks aren't exactly all-pro level. They're teetering on Pro Bowl level, but again, he's a good all-around athlete. My biggest concerns on film was flexibility and explosiveness, and that's kind of how he tested. I think this is a guy that you don't necessarily want to be holding up in a two-gap sort of system where he has to, hold down two players at the same time. He's more of a penetrating one-gap kind of guy. So if the Packers use him that way, which I think they will, and utilize his speed for his size, I think you'll get a decent player out of him. I don't necessarily see that he's ever going to become a multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowl player just based on his production and his athleticism, but I do think that there's enough good things here, good components here, to consider him to be a starter, and already the Packers have 3 starters to start the draft, which is it's very good, if not one guy in Kevin King who has Pro Bowl level potential. Then we get to the first pick where there was some minor concern. I won't say minor concerns, but some big concerns. And Vince Biegel, edge, 3-4 outside linebacker from Wisconsin. Now, production-wise, there's nothing wrong with his production. He was 93.59 when it comes to solo tackle market share, 72.66 when it comes to sack market share, and 87.81 when it comes to tackle for loss market share. All those marks are in the good ballpark of what a Pro Bowl 3-4 outside linebacker is supposed to look like. And also athleticism was pretty decent. He was 49.26 when it came to explosiveness, 75.32 when it comes to speed, and 89.86 when it comes to flexibility for his size, which are the big reasons why Justice Mosqueda has been championing him as, well, he's going to be the next Clay Matthews because of this and that sort of stuff, because of his comparison to Clay when it comes to athleticism, which there are some similarities, and this is just Clay Matthews compared to Vince Biegel. Where the comparison breaks down, though, is Clay Matthews was not injured for most of his career. I mean, Vince Biegel is someone who, when it comes to injuries, he's never finished a season completely healthy his entire career in college football. He's never had one season where he was healthy. And on top of that, his age score for Vince Biegel is 11.10, which if he were to become a multiple Pro Bowl edge rusher or multiple All-Pro edge rusher even, with his age score, it would be unprecedented. It's never happened before in the last 20 plus years for edge rusher to be as old as Vince Biegel and to become a multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowl player. And a big reason why he's coming out at such a older age is because of that injury history. So overall, I think with Vince Biegel, you have a guy who's productive, you have a guy who's athletic. I'm not going to write him off completely. He could become a long-term starter for you. I think that's very much a possibility. But I just think when it comes to high-quality outcomes, there's just things that are messing him up a bit when it comes to those sort of things. So I think again, if you got him started day 3, so that's good. But I do think that you have some concerns here when it comes to his injury history, and there's a reason why he went that low. So don't get your hopes too high on him. Just kind of go in with expectation of him potentially becoming a starter, and I think you'll be fine with that pick. Then we come to the first pick where there was lots of issues, actually. This is one pick I actually don't think is going to turn out that well, and that's Jamaal Williams, running back out of BYU. Now, production-wise, he's fine. He had 83.77 when it came to his overall production, which is 5-time Pro Bowl level. Overall age is decent, 79.96 when it comes to his age score, which is fine. But where his problems result is in athleticism, which was something that was evident on film as well. He only scored a 25.54 in terms of explosiveness, 37.33 when it comes to speed, and 14.27 in terms of flexibility for his size. Based on his flexibility, there has not been a single multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowl running back to have as poor of a flexibility score as he had. And on top of that, in order to be a high-quality running back over the last 20-plus years, you have to have at least one athleticism trait that's above 79. So whether it's explosiveness, whether it's speed, whether it's flexibility, you have to have one of these scores that's over 79, and he doesn't have a single one that's over 79. So despite the fact that he has good production, which he does, that athleticism is something that's not going to work that well. I think best case you're looking at a committee back, a guy that can work in that sort of system, but I don't think this is a guy that you want becoming a long-term starter long-term, because there just isn't any players who've had this type of athleticism and became a substantially high-quality player when it comes to that sort of stuff. And again, on film, those concerns are evident. This isn't just testing bias. On film, I noticed he was kind of slow. He wasn't exactly he was kind of a high runner as well. And some of the competition he played as well, like Arizona. Arizona was one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12 last year. And sure, he looked amazing against Arizona, but that's not an NFL defense. So while Jamaal Williams has his fans, I would say that I would just be careful when it comes to projecting anything too high with him, because the chances of him becoming a high-quality player are just not there when it comes to him. Then we come to a next pick of the draft for them, and Deangelo, Yancey, wide receiver out of Purdue. His issue, well, actually, let's start with the positives. Just starting with the positives, in terms of athleticism, he was 90.18 when it came to explosiveness, 86.38 when it comes to speed, and 91.81 when it comes to flexibility for his size. He's by far one of the most athletic wide receivers in this draft class. But the problem comes with production. He only scored 57.03 when it comes to passing yardage market share production, and according to all the data that I have, in order to be a long-term starter, the vast majority, over 90+% of every single long-term, actually 95% of every long-term starting wide receiver since the 1969 NFL draft class had at least a passing yardage market share score of 58 or higher. So Deangelo and Yancey is almost there, 57.03. He's almost there, but not quite there. I think based on his athleticism and based on his production, there is potential for him to become a long-term starter. But I would say that there's a lot of things. I mean, just when you have a wide receiver who has low of a production score as this, there's just not a ton of guys that are really successful when they have a score that low. So while I am intrigued by the athleticism, I think the Packers are intrigued by the athleticism that Yancey brings. I do think that you have to worry a bit when it comes to him becoming a long-term starter based on his production issues. So that's the one thing I would say about him is just tip your expectations. He's a very good athlete, but most of the time, even if you are a very good athlete and you have a production score like this, you usually don't do too well in the NFL. Or you don't become a very dynamic player at the very least. Like the chances of him becoming a multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowl player based on his production is non-existent. There's never been someone to be unprecedented for him to become that type of player based on his production profile. Then we come to probably my favorite pick of the draft for the Green Bay Packers in Aaron Jones, running back out of Texas, El Paso. This is another player that I've been talking about a ton since the draft season started, and mainly because of production, but also because of film. But just production-wise, just to start that out, he had 96.60 when it came to his market share production, which is 5-time All-Pro level. He misses the mark in terms of high quality because of age, 64.91, which drops him from multiple All-Pro level to multiple Pro Bowl level, but it doesn't hurt him too much. I mean, and especially the fact that this is a guy that you're getting in day 3, I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that he's more of a multiple Pro Bowl player than he is a multiple All-Pro player. And then you get to his athleticism, which is by far the thing that didn't really surprise me, but I was really happy for him when he tested due to this, is that he was 85.81 when it came to explosiveness, 55.61 when it comes to speed, and 84.46 when it comes to flexibility for his size. He's another guy who's one of the more athletic running backs in the draft class, has elite, almost near elite flexibility and near elite explosiveness. This type of back profiles best as a ZBS back, because ZBS backs who do really well with this type of athleticism is because of their explosiveness. They're able to find the hole and explode through the hole, and their flexibility also helps them to get yards after the catch once they get to that hole and get to that area, and also kind of limits the amount of time it takes for them to change directions and do that sort of thing. So again, I really like this pick. I think Aaron Jones is going to be a fantastic player for you. I would say that he's the guy that I would put my chips on when it comes to becoming the starting running back for the Green Bay Packers, because based on his film from pass protection to the ability to catch the football in the backfield and just his own running style, he has everything you want in terms of a bell cow running back. They'll probably still be wishy-washy when it comes to the running back rotation because they drafted 3 backs in this draft class. But I think Aaron Jones is the best just based on his production and based on his athleticism to fill that need and become the guy. So I think there's a very good chance Aaron Jones can fill that need. Then we come to their next pick in Kofi Amichia, offensive guard out of South Florida. Based on his athleticism, which is just the main thing with him, he was 95.54 in terms of explosiveness, 92.94 when it comes to speed, and unfortunately he didn't do the short shoulder 3-cone to determine his flexibility for his size. But based on those 2 metrics alone, you're talking about a player who has elite explosiveness and elite speed for his size. The Packers are famous for taking players like this, and they work out usually. They have a history with guys like J.C. Treader and a few other guys that they've taken in the past who have really good athleticism. They develop them, and then they become something interesting. I think that's going to be the case with Kofi. I think there's a lot of positives from athleticism standpoint to point to some really good things if he develops, and he could end up being a starting interior offensive lineman for you. If not this year, in the future, that's very much a possibility based on his athleticism traits. So I think that's a decent pick for a guy who is not known by very many people. I knew him, but I do think that there's positives there from an athleticism standpoint when it comes to him. Then to finish out the rest of their draft with the last 2 picks, they selected Devante Mays, running back out of Utah State. He's a guy who, just from an athleticism standpoint, which I think is the big driver for why they made this selection, he was 99.70 in terms of explosiveness for his size, which is one of the best. He's one of the most explosive running backs in the last 20 years. 93.10 when it comes to speed for his size, and 28.22 when it comes to flexibility for his size, which is the only major mark was his flexibility. He did not have a very good short trail. He did not have a very good 3 count. And to top it all off, another sort of issue with him is production. He only scored a 44.10 when it came to his total offensive market share production. And that's not getting it done when it comes to 3-time Pro Bowl level, 5-time Pro Bowl level, and multiple All-Pro level. He didn't hit any of those marks. I think best case scenario, you're looking at a guy that can be a special teamer, but there's just not enough positives. Sure, there's athleticism here, but you add in the flexibility issues that he has, and you're really just looking at a really good athlete, and that's about it when it comes to his profile. So I think there's some positives here. I think he could be a committee kind of style back because his production is committee level, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be a guy that you should expect to become the lead back in your system based on his production and based on other factors. So that's not a pick that I necessarily would think is going to pan out that well, but he also is a late round pick. And then the last pick of the draft in Malachi Dupre, wide receiver, LSU. Starting with his production, he was 71.41 when it comes to his passing yardage market share, which is 3-time Pro Bowl level. It's decent. Age-wise, also fairly decent when it comes to 94.37. But the issue becomes with athleticism. And I don't usually criticize wide receiver athleticism that much, but only in cases I criticize it is when there is a pattern of negatives, and that's the big issue with Malachi Dupre. He had 84.72 when it comes to explosiveness, but only 40.07 when it comes to speed for his size, and 24.79 when it comes to flexibility for his size. This type of athlete does not work out that much at the NFL level. Sure, he has really above average explosiveness, but this is him compared to Dwayne Jarrett. He's a wide receiver from USC that was drafted by the Panthers, and they're eerily similar, with the only difference that Dupre is less flexible than Dwayne Jarrett. Dwayne Jarrett was another guy that had similar profile to Dupre. He was a big-time college player and played against tough competition. He was actually more productive than Dupre, actually, on top of that, and he ended up flaming out in the NFL. Because of the issue is that when you have a guy who's below average fast and below average flexible, you usually have issues with this guys when it comes to getting out of their breaks fluidly. These guys usually have issues when it comes to route running. They usually have issues when it comes to just, in general, being deceptive. And that's something I saw a lot with Dupre on film. I don't think he's the most deceptive wide receiver ever, and I don't think he's that fast. I don't think he's that flexible. And that was just something that I didn't really like that much on film with him, especially flexibility, because he was one of the worst blockers I've ever seen on film at the wide receiver position, because he just wasn't able to get underneath guys, and it makes sense why he wasn't able to get low against most cornerbacks because of that lack of flexibility. So I don't think that this pick is really going to work out for you. Now, he is productive. I think he is going to be used a bit as a rotational wide receiver. But if you think that this guy's going to become a long-term starter or a very, very high impact guy, to say the least, like a multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowl player, the chances of that are just very, very low based on his athleticism and based on the other factors like what he looked like on film. So overall, to wrap up the Green Bay Packers draft class, I think this is a very good draft, and it's even more impressive when you think about the fact that they didn't take a single first-round pick. They traded down into day 2 because they saw all these really good defensive players falling down in the draft because of all the offensive players taken in the first round, and they ended up coming out with great, fantastic defensive players like Kevin King, Josh Jones, Montravius Adams, Vince Biegel. They even got some offensive players in day 3 that are really impressive in terms of Deangelo, Yancey, in terms of as athleticism-wise. Aaron Jones, from a running back standpoint, I think that might end up being your starting running back long-term. And then, of course, you get Kofi Amichia from South Florida, who is a guard that I think could develop into a long-term starter for you. So, good job. I mean, you got all these players that are going to be high-impact players for you in day 2 to day 3 of the draft. which is good. It's great. Not all the picks were hit out of the park though. I mean, Jamaal Williams is somebody I think is going to have some issues. Devante Mays is someone I think is only going to be sort of a backup reserve guy, and Malachi Dupre I don't think is going to have a ton of success early or long term. But it's a good draft overall. So again, this concludes the Common Man Football Show. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics if you want to see me tweeting about different sort of things like that. And yeah, I'm going to be coming with more episodes, more information about other draft classes as the week goes on. And also be sure to like and subscribe if you want more content. If you want more stuff like this, feel free to, again, like and subscribe this video. That's the best way to help this channel out, is to do that. And also leave a comment too if you have any questions about the data that I use, or just general questions about data and that sort of thing. Also leave a comment, and I'll respond to most of the comments that at least make sense for the most part, or just aren't very funny quips and stuff like that. So again, thank you very much, and I will talk to you guys next week or tomorrow. Peace.